There's the Weird Al version, of course. That's still keeping her safe.
Oh, I would love that.
Walking the Witch's Road. Weep!
We'll stick around to the end of this episode where we'll give you multiple Weird Al-esque parodies of...
You made a promise. You have to deliver now. And if you do have an accident in your pants, all you need to do is remember Weird Al's favorite cover.
Welcome back to the after show here on the Breakroom for Agatha All Along. Aubrey Plaza is WoW Platinum and Rio Vidal. Hit that graphic.
If you like after shows, you're in the right place. And we're gonna hold you for 90 minutes, maybe 72.
I did not get the lyrics for those.
No one did.
No one does. No one ever does.
Hey folks, if that WoW Platinum reference I just made was exactly for just 2% of this audience, and if you're in that 2%, I am so sorry.
That 2% is represented by me, 1%, and Dashiell, the other 1%.
Yeah. Right. I made the joke with no idea what it means. This is the after show, of course, for episode 4 of Agatha All Along. If I can't reach you, let my song teach you. We got to talk about Rio and Agatha, as well as what the heck is going on with this teen character. We'll get into that and more. I'm Brandon Barrick. Joining me today, he's put out 2 spoken word solo albums so far. It's Erik Voss.
It's what the audience wants. Hey, sorry about your eardrums a moment ago, but I think it was a worth it way to sacrifice your hearing ability.
Yeah.
Welcome to the break room, guys.
We're
getting into it.
Worth it. That was rock and roll, baby. Also joining us today, we summoned her by lighting candles, reciting an incantation, and laying a Taylor ham and cheese sandwich on the ground. It's Gina Ippolito.
Jersey! In North Jersey, it's called Taylor ham!
That's right. I had to Google it. I had no idea what it is. Gina also didn't dress up for a holiday. This is just her normal life.
Every Thursday.
Also joining us today, folks, he's covered in nipples. It's Zach Huddleston.
Want to see him?
No, for the last time, no.
I'm like a mama pig.
Jeez Louise.
Speaking of Taylor ham.
Some pig.
He's gonna show up to work one day just having little tiny pigs hanging off of him under his shirt.
Some pig.
Did Evan weave some pig or stupendous in the web somewhere?
Speaking of Evan, we got Madam Wevin himself in the producer box taking your questions live. We'll hit most of them towards the end of the episode, but keep sending them in at Breakroom if you're in the chat right now. And don't forget to check out nerdriot.shop for fun Agatha-inspired merch. Eric and I both have some Agatha shirts on. Ooh, creepy. Yeah. Zach's got a Loki shirt.
A little bit of throwback.
It's got a Halloween vibe.
Like, yeah, it was a vibe.
That was Halloween last year, baby.
That's spooky. It's still spooky.
Very spooky. And we got lots of other fandoms represented on nerdriot.shop. Check them out. It's the best way to support the channel. Get some merch all over at nerdriot.shop. Okay, Eric, kick us off with a little bit of a recap of this episode.
Okay, episode 4 of Agatha All Along begins with the Coven taking in Sharon Davis's death, but not Agatha, really. She's just, ready to keep on walking. But they need a Green Witch, especially if Agatha ended her last trip on the road with only one other. We have to assume that a Green Witch was one of the required members of that team. But they summon one, but it's out of Sharon. It's not out of Sharon's grave that Rio arrives. It's out of this new setting, and it's even more surprising. Agatha, it's Rio Vidal. She tells the Coven that she is the Green Witch. Which is interesting, right? The original one. But with the reveal that Alice's mother, Lorna Wu, died on tour. Wait, did she die on the road or she died on tour?
Well, she died on the road, but the road was the tour.
I see.
It was her own witch's road.
And her fans were her coven, and she was dying to try to protect her daughter, Alice. So they go into the next trial, which is set in like a psychedelic 70s style recording studio. It's like, is this a house or is it a recording studio? And then I realized, whoa, we are in the land of angels here in Southern California. Yeah. Many houses are just recording studios. Right. Good Times at Davy Wayne's is like, you can just pick up a guitar and start playing. As if there's another room with audio recording equipment, why not cut a record there? But as they look for another letter, Lily observes some images of witches dying in various ways on the walls of this place. And while talking to Alice about how her mother was trying to open the road with her fans, she has another outburst. She goes, which is it? Am I wispy or am I kooky? And then goes, Alice, don't. And then Alice is like, lady, the hell are you talking about?
Don't what?
But then doesn't follow up. after that.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah.
she doesn't remember.
I
She
have
doesn't know
some
what happened.
questions.
We'll follow up in episode 7.
And real quick, just going back before I pick up the recap, you said that Rio does not pop out of Sharon's grave. Does she come out of the other side of the road that they're standing on?
I didn't think it was Sharon's grave. I thought they raked over a different area. They were like further down the road a little bit. But I don't know. Did I misread that? That it was.
I think they kind of dug out dirt to put over Sharon, and maybe that was the hole they dug out.
Does Rio come out of the spot where they had the outline with the flowers?
Yeah, there's like a body of an outlet, but then there's also like leaves around it. So it would be weird if that was
No, but she doesn't come out of that spot. She comes out of the hole in the ground, not where they put the body.
Oh.
Yes, because she comes out of kind of an elevated place, not like a place that's
She's
like
kind of on
under
the
their
side
feet,
of the
right?
road where they were digging out.
They do sort of think that it's they think that it's Mrs. Davis, Mrs. Hart rising.
Yeah,
from
that's
the
definitely why I
grave
was
at
reacting
first.
that way. Because at the very least, they think it's her body somehow, right?
Yeah.
But it's Rio.
And maybe it is. Well, but maybe it is. Maybe
I
it's
think
like a
they-
reconstituted.
I hope we see her again. I think she's so
Yeah.
she's so great. I hope she comes back in the last episode just as like a zombie.
Or a ghost, or maybe
Force
when you
ghost.
die in the Witch's Road, you kind of wake up from the simulation, and then you're like, because we see Jennifer Kale in a promo where she's crawling out of the ground back in Westview. So I wonder if Sharon Davis like died in the road. And
Maybe
then she
it's a
could
Bob
wake up.
Newhart ending, and she wakes up in that '70s show,
And her
she's
husband's
like,
still
"Oh
alive."
my god!"
Yeah.
Red. Okay. In the engineering booth at the recording studio / home, Rio gets some alone time with Agatha. We get this super interesting exchange with Agatha telling her that she's too early to cause some damage, but Rio responds that this decision wasn't up to her. Magic sent the most appropriate candidate up. So much to unpack there. We'll come back to this in a bit. Agatha reveals Rio's intention of wanting more bodies to the coven via the hot mic, but before they can investigate further, Teen plays a record that passes Alice's generational curse onto all of them. Alice is able to dispel the curse with some magic circles, but it can attack, sending Teen through the glass of the recording booth. Also, being in a recording booth and threatening to kill people, who do they think they are? Phil Spector?
Dang, dude, dang. I mean, he was in his home, not recording with his own.
I mean, I'm sure someone died in this '70s
Yeah,
style.
yeah. Well,
Witch's
it was
Road
giving
house.
Boogie Nights. It needed Alfred
Yeah,
Molina walking around setting off
That's true.
firecrackers.
That's true. Yeah.
Motorhead!
Oh, that's another great scene. Listen, the only way to break this curse to sing Lorna's version of the ballad. It's
Perfect.
different than the regular version. Agatha and Alice realize that her version is a protection spell, so her fans singing it means that it's been warding the curse off, like protecting Alice from the curse. Even after all these years, because there's always someone out there singing it. It's probably me walking around my
Yeah.
neighborhood with my earbuds in.
Very cool.
There's the Weird Al version, of course. That's still keeping her safe.
Oh, I would love that. I
Walking
would
the
love
Witch's
that.
Road. Wait,
Oh, he doesn't change the lyrics in this
No,
one.
he did. This is one of his
That's the
polka
polka.
covers.
This is the
Yeah,
polka
yeah.
cover.
He calls
Great,
it the
great,
Witch's
great.
polka.
We'll come stick around to the end of this episode when we'll give you multiple Weird Al-esque parodies of
You made a promise. You have to deliver now.
We get a great scene of the coven all haphazardly picking up instruments with Lilia using the zills. I love that the most musically inclined goes for the easiest. If there's a little tiny finger
Well,
cymbals.
easiest. Come on.
Yeah, you gotta have rhythm. You gotta have
rhythm.
precision.
You gotta
Listen,
know how to
that's
let
the
them
instrument you
hang
give to a
when you hit
toddler
'em.
at the family reunion.
That was a good. I think that was a good joke, though. I only learned how to play the zills. Oh, look, zills.
But then every time they showed her how to she's playing something
She had a
else
triangle.
easy.
Yeah,
She had a
yeah.
triangle. She had
Great.
the maracas.
I got reamed out for not knowing how to play the triangle. Okay,
Dang,
it's
dude.
not
Oh,
easy. It's
this
not
touched a
easy.
nerve. This touched a nerve with Evan.
Evan is the whiplash of triangles.
Not my tempo.
My high school my high school band teacher was taught by the same guy who taught Damien Chazelle. So very much the whiplash school.
Taught him
Very
music
much.
or film?
Wow.
Taught him music. Damien Chazelle's music teacher.
Oh, I see. Okay.
okay.
He really reamed out Evan. And
Yeah,
Evan
this
has
whole
never
episode very
recovered
triggering
it.
for me.
With the camera swinging all around, Agatha singing through the pain, the studio catching fire, and to cap it all off, a physical winged demon version of the curse lands on Alice. And this was like an awesome sequence. Like,
Yeah, this
is
even
really
before
cool.
we saw that demon, I was like, wow, this is great. And then the demon who looked great.
Yeah.
It's a cool
I mean,
looking
this
demon.
is the one we saw in the promo, and like great. I love a practical. It's still freaky looking.
It
It's
is
so
still
intense
freaky looking. And then
Very
also,
weird.
like, when it lands on you, it leaves those burns.
Yeah.
Are they going to be all scarred up at the end of this, or are those scars
No,
gone?
I assumed it was just for the trial, like it goes away.
But
She still
Alice
had
has
it.
had that her entire life.
But do you think it's gone now after the curse is
Well,
dead?
it was
She
a
thought it was a
blood
birthmark.
curse.
Oh,
So, yeah.
I think they're gonna need some Neosporin. I
Yeah, I
hope
was
Jen
gonna
can cook
say.
up some nice like salve.
Well, but
Yeah,
then
put a
also
little
like
aloe on there.
when you just some moonlight and water can instantly.
Hey, but a
feel
high
like
priestess has
giant-
got to do it. You can't just any schmo just can't put a little water in the moon.
Also, this isn't any water. I
He
mean, they got
did-
some major fluoride in
You
this
know,
one. It's
that
good.
moment was very Magneto, right?
Yeah.
Who may or may not be his granddaddy.
Oh,
Okay.
good point. Yeah, I was thinking it was like Henry Jones in Last
Yeah.
Crusade.
Oh, yeah.
It was a good, simple, practical effect, right?
Yeah,
It was
but
a
that's
little-
how they got
little
Magneto
Alka-Seltzer.
in
Little
Days
baking
of
soda.
Future Past. That's how you get a little shrapnel, and then all of a sudden you think he's fine, but he looks down and he's got a little piece of shrapnel in him. Magneto.
Dang, dude.
Old Magneto.
Magneto.
Interesting.
Not this show. Okay. Of course, the Coven wins the day, destroying the curse and opening an exit through the piano. Adorable. But Teen faints. He had a piece of glass lodged in his stomach the whole time. Very dangerous. They scramble to heal him, and Agatha is noticeably rattled, staring down Rio, saying, "Don't. Not now. Don't do it. Stay away from my son. Maybe my son. I don't know." It's Jen to the rescue, who's able to heal the teen with some quick thinking. The witches bond by the fire, with Jennifer revealing that she was a midwife, and that the man from the last episode, that doctor character who bound her, did so without magic. The mystery grows. Teen comes to, and Agatha's relieved. She asks, the teen asks about the sigil and asks if Agatha herself cast the sigil. And Agatha says that she wouldn't know, because the sigil works even on the witch who cast it as well. And the sigil is only destroyed. It can't be lifted. It can only be destroyed, and only when it's no longer needed. I kind of love this, like, very simple spell that's, like, very tricky and very tough to undo. Reminds me, they talked about this, like, in Doctor Strange, right? Old curses or powerful magic being hard to break when Ebony Maw is trying to remove the time stone from Doctor Strange. He's like, you'll find, like, some of these old curses are very hard to break. Like, I love this idea of, like, simple, hard, brute force magic that you can't get around. And it's just simple like that. But the teen, when he asks her what really happened to her son, Nicholas Scratch, Agatha doesn't answer. Instead, she rejoins the Coven. It kind of, like, ruins the moment they're having, right? She's like, I don't talk about it. Rio shares a cryptic story about being scarred after doing something she didn't want to do to someone she loved because it was her job. Heavy conversation. Who could she be talking about? I don't know. Maybe the star of the show. Agatha and Rio get some alone time again, this time embracing, ever so gently. A hand graces the face. But when Agatha goes in for a kiss, Rio tells her that, quote, that boy isn't yours. Again, ruining the moment.
Yeah, way to ruin the mood.
Just get a kiss first and then get to the business. Agatha has an interesting reaction, almost struggling to smile, before the credits roll.
Real quick, do we see an Agatha Rio kiss before the end of this?
We
series?
have to,
Yeah, I
right?
think so.
Yeah.
Maybe in flashback, even if not in current time.
I think a final before the death of someone, maybe.
Ooh,
I
on
don't
a
know.
deathbed, maybe?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Lots of mysteries in the show. Mysteries abound. New mysteries. Very few answers to the mysteries we already have. But any favorite moments from this episode before we get into the bigger storylines and our bigger questions?
I mean, I love them singing their version of the Ballad of the Witch's Road. I mean, it's such a great Alice episode, and she gave such a great performance. I just have to say that cryptic little moment in the recording booth before it got to the hot mic. I thought the hot mic was just a little weird. Like, Catherine, Agatha, what are you trying to?
Yeah.
You're trying to do this gossip game a little bit, but like their moment where she's talking about the up or down line, I thought was really weird, really interesting, and I just like that little pseudo flirtatious moment. But Agatha only started flirting with her to get her attention off of the team. Did you notice that? Like, she's like, why did you bring that boy? And she goes, oh, extra hands. And she's like, hey, anyway. And then she stands up next to her. So I just thought the blocking of that, the acting of it was really, really cool.
Yeah, I really liked. I mean, the whole musical sequence was amazing, but the final moment, the climax of it, it was so like, 70s or 80s like music video when they really like poured all their money and
There's
all their
fire
heart
effects
into
in the
it.
background.
Yeah, it was almost like heavy metal, right? Like
Oh, yeah.
like where there's like a beast and only music can kill this beast, and so like the moment where it like bursts into flames, I was like, that is a music video right there. I just love the costumes. I love trying to figure out who everyone was based on and us having discussions about like, oh, this looks like this. Way Well done, wardrobe department.
Yes. I love the Rio popping out of the ground sequence.
Yeah,
Kinda
fun energy.
Creepy.
And she's very different than when we first met her, right? She was being very different in that first episode. And this energy she's bringing that's like almost manic and like
dirty.
Yeah.
Also, her limbs cracking into place was such a great, visceral thing.
That I wonder if that was one of the stunt people who's playing the Salem 7 too that can do that weird kind of contortion, because it didn't seem like it was any. Other than like speeding it up, it seemed like natural movement maybe, or someone who was able to contort. I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that's my favorite thing about this whole series, just all the practical nature of everything. It just works. Like, even that sequence, like, I don't think there was any, besides the demon burning, but like the fire in the background felt real.
Yeah.
Like practical fire effects.
They really burned a demon.
They really burned it. They cast a demon and then burned them. This is why SAG went on strike. You can't burn our demons.
Yeah, the demon was like, I finally got enough hours to be union. No.
Mom, I'm going to be an Agatha all along. How many episodes? Well, just one, I think. I mean, Mom, this is something.
Do you have any lines?
Well, I go, ah!
This is your next character at our next live show. You got to be this demon.
Demon reading for part of Snickers Eater. Delicious Snickers.
Oh, you're not you without a Snickers. You messed up the line, demon.
Demon wanted to be the after review of the Snickers person.
I thought I was waiting for the other part. Oh, no.
It's like he's Tony Shalhoub complaining, then turns back into the demon after eating a Snickers.
I also love it. Speaking of practical, obviously it probably wasn't Joe Locke. It was probably a stunt person, but getting thrown through the window was kind of a nice stunt, right?
Yeah.
Looked very real.
Yeah, definitely separate. It was like when they went down the water slide. It was like, oh, these are stunt people. Kicking the
Do you think they used a dummy for Sharon's corpse down that water slide? She was dead before she went down it. I just have to point that out. A corpse was sloshing down that water slide, just bumping into everything.
We've all been at a water park with a dead body, Eric.
Yeah,
Do you think they have to shut down the water slide and like clean it out?
This only refers to New Jersey. What's it called? Action Park.
Action
Park.
Park.
Where you have
Class Action Park.
Yeah.
And in Ocala, Florida.
Wild Waters.
Wild Waters, there's no way. There's people who probably are close to death there because it's Florida. But, you know, we don't have any actual proven bodies. It's like a Florida pastime. It's quickly moving near-death people out of the grounds of,
Oh my God!
theme parks.
Tell us in the chat what water park is closest to you.
What's your most dangerous
Are
one?
you a Schlitterbahn?
Yeah.
Are you
Are you a Wet and Wild?
a Wet and Wild? What's going on near you?
Are you a Typhoon Lagoon?
Where are you catching various skin diseases?
Before we continue with this great conversation, we want to thank some of our sponsors today, including One Shot Energy.
Boom.
Oh, these are helpful this morning. One Shot Energy Chews are a healthy and convenient energy boosting supplement candy for everybody. They make energy chews, focus chews, and voice drops for when your throat needs a little TLC. And things like the focus chew, they don't have caffeine in them. They're more about like getting your mind in a good space to study.
B vitamins.
Vitamins, things like that. They've got great flavors. Like the voice drops are yuzu flavor with marshmallow and honey and peppermint. The voice drops are great, especially if you do a lot of talking at your job, or you just talk a lot at your job, and people are like, man, they won't stop talking. Get a voice drop and keep those sultry sounds coming out for when you got to talk all day long. Focus chews, like I said, help with concentration and have B, C, D, and E vitamins. Each energy chew has 75 milligrams of caffeine to give you a boost that kicks in as you chew. And now you can get One Shot Energy Chews in a new sour black cherry cola flavor. That flavor's really good. I like that one. Wow. What do you got there, Zach?
I got an orange mango energy chew.
Ooh.
Apologies to people that hate the sound of somebody eating on camera.
I don't like it. I have misophonia.
Misophonia, yeah.
I don't enjoy it. That's why I don't like hot ones.
Really?
Stop.
That's the basic premise of the
Chicken
show.
noises. I don't know. Anyways, all of One Shot Energy's products are plant-based and naturally sweetened without a bunch of fillers and chemicals. You can get started with One Shot Energy today by going to oneshotenergy.com/newrockstars for 10% off your order. That's oneshotenergy.com/newrockstars.
Thank you to One Shot Energy.
Thank you.
I'm gonna take one of these voice drops right now.
Please.
Great idea.
Okay, so many questions from this episode and every episode. But first, let's talk about Rio. Erik goes into more about Rio in the breakdown pretty extensively because we know there's some information out there. Are you opening your voice drop during my read? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
The voice drops we can't confirm are not Opera House.
They're not Opera House friendly. Open
the silent
before
rappers.
intermission's over. But we're going to talk about RIO, and we know there's some information out there on the internet about what might be happening with this character, but let's just stick to what we learned from this episode. Jessica actually made a great video at the beginning of the season talking about RIO and Agatha and their relationship, and now we're getting a ton of new information about this character, but still a lot of mystery, right? We still don't, there's something up here. Something's going on. So this episode really hints that RIO has, like, I don't know, something to do with people dying, right?
Yeah.
Like, I keep talking about this in episode 3 during Lilia's like vision. We saw a hooded figure with a skull face, and in like Marvel comics, that's like a very death-like figure, right? In most storylines,
Most
that's
cultures.
like death.
I
I
mean-
mean, now you have RIO coming up and talking about collecting bodies.
Right. With for weeks now, we've been talking about just the clues that were on the tarot card of the tarot card for death, which doesn't mean death. It means like transformation, depending on how it's laid out on a board. But that tarot card is holding Rio's curved dagger in one hand and her black heart in the other one. So I think, for weeks now we've been speculating that we're not going to talk about anything else that may be out there leak-wise with the character of Rio Vidal. But yes, I think this episode makes it abundantly clear that she is some form of death or I mean, just from the black hooded figure, from just the lines to the fact that Agatha begs her at the end, don't, as if one would beg the Grim Reaper with, his scythe, please don't take this boy. I'm reminded of Jean Valjean at the end of Les Mis. Like, bring him home. Like, kind of this plea, this emotional plea. So, yeah, I think it's okay for us to speculate, is she death, and what does that mean for her relationship or history with Agatha? And her relationship and her history with Sharon, maybe. Does she have a connection to Sharon?
Ooh, interesting. I love the word choice, too, she uses, I get my bodies.
Yeah.
She didn't say I get my lives, I get my
Not
kills,
souls, right? Just
my
bodies.
souls, just bodies.
Is that
which
a Greenwich
great.
thing, though? Is it like bodies become fertilizer and it like returns power to the earth?
Well,
Because if she is like this character of death or somehow related to death, is she also a Greenwich? Are those two the same thing? Like, because death is a natural process?
Because they ask, was it Jennifer and Lilia ask her, so you're a Green Witch? And she says, I'm the Green Witch, or whatever, right? Which is kind of a non-answer. I mean, in some ways,
when
that's
they
her
know
confirming.
who the Green Witch is?
Right. And so it also, we don't see, I correct me if I'm wrong, in any of the appearances, we've never seen Rio do any magic, right? Or anything witchy.
She kind of leapt across the room in a way that felt like flying.
Maybe she's had super soldier serum. We don't know, right?
Hey, that's true. Is she a flag smasher?
But like she has not been a part of any of the incantations or the spells, right? Like she wasn't drawing a protection circle with her own dagger on the ground. She wasn't there when they were all speaking Latin, right? Like so just I wonder, is she not a witch? She's something else.
No.
Obviously she's some kind of mystical, demonic, spiritual,
Because
whatever.
even when
but-
she tells Agatha to claw her way out, right? She's not she's kind of telling her to, but she's not like the teen was reciting an incantation to try and get her out. She's just there being like, "Yes, do it." Like that's a good point. We haven't really seen her
she
do
hasn't.
capital M magic.
And just to say that, like, obviously she probably is embodying magic or some other kind of forces in some way, but maybe she's like a different level of being, something above a witch or more than a
or
witch.
below
right?
a witch,
Yeah.
deeper than a witch,
Yes.
beyond a witch. Like, I mean, if we're going to just follow this thread for a little bit, like maybe maybe each member of your typical coven, each skill set is kind of rooted in some kind of cosmic force. So maybe any green witch, the idea of green witches being contributed to a coven comes from death, comes from the soil, comes from bodies decomposing in the earth, and that's where death really sinks us down into. Like you are buried in the earth, and that's just kind of, elementally what
Right.
death is linked to. The idea of the potions witch, water is so fundamental to the potions witch. So maybe there's some kind of like water deity or some water cosmic force that's connected to that. Like eternity, weirdly, was kind of in this setting where it was like a water, like a flat ocean
Yeah.
bed, right?
Because sorry, go ahead.
Oh, and I don't know, I'm kind of freewheeling now, but I kind of think like the fire one could be, there's like Mephisto could be connected to fire, or Surtur is connected to fire, or there are other elemental things out there that are connected to fire. I wonder if one of these could be connected to time as well. Like air, something coming from like kind of the movement of air particles through the air. It's just all these four things are so bound to Terra, to Earth, I don't know if they're as necessary to other planets and other societies around the world. So I'm just kind of chewing on that for now.
Yeah.
So is the assumption that the thing that she did that caused her to have that scar, I had to do something that hurt her. The assumption then is that she took her son, right?
That's what I think they were trying to say on the front side of it.
Doing my job.
Yeah.
My job being taking lives when people die.
Exactly.
Or whatever, right?
Exactly.
And she talked about it like, her scar was this person, right? It is Agatha. But there's also this idea of like the black heart and all that. And like, I wonder if there is a physical scar on RIO of like a removed heart or like swapping her heart for a black heart. Something weird like that. I wonder how that is all going to come back into play. And if RIO is this character of like death in the comics, death is kind of like a cosmic figure, right? Thanos, that sets off a lot of the Infinity Gauntlet storyline in the comics is like Thanos trying to woo death. And death is responsible not just for the death of on Earth, but like any life form in the universe. And I don't read RIO as that way. And I wonder if the show is trying to say like, oh, each planet has their own death, or like she works for capital D death and she's just like an agent for Earth.
She's
it's like
the mall Santa of death.
Yeah. She's Earth's representative in like, the death. And how does this tie into like
death can't be everywhere at all
It's true.
times. So when you're asking death
needs
for
helpers.
gifts, they will report back the gifts you want to Big Death.
Yeah.
Maybe she's just because I just don't trust Marvel Studios to reveal one additional death in future titles.
Right.
Like they're not going to confuse us that way. Once someone is revealed as death, they're death. And I think Aubrey Plaza might just be like, the Green Witch is Death's earthly form. But when Death appears on Titan or Hala or any of these other planets, it's still Aubrey Plaza, but she takes whatever form is important to the people of Hala. Maybe the eclipse. Like she's so connected to that weird dying star of Hala that's so important to them. To Xandar, they have the triple star solar system, or binary, no, it's triple star. So maybe Death has a specific form to that. Like she's a black hole. Themed character.
Yeah, it would be really weird if you were an alien and this humanoid-looking creature came to you and was like, "Hey, I'm Death." Like they would be like, "Who? What the hell are you? Why are you all weird and pink?"
Yeah.
Evan?
I do like this theory posed in the Twitch chat from Pyro1624 saying, I think that RIO was the other witch that Agatha survived the road with for the first time, and becoming Death is what she won as a prize. Interesting that maybe, off of your theory, Eric, like, that could be, like, at the end of the road there, it was, like, that Aubrey Plaza or RIO as a witch was presented with the option to become, like, Death's avatar or champion, however you want to, like, view that kind of form-taking.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that idea, though. I also have a lot of questions around when they ask Agatha how many witches were with you when you walked the road. She doesn't give an answer. She holds up a single finger, which, like, to me, I know in your breakdown, Eric, you kind of hinted that one finger meant there was one other witch. In my brain, watching the show, I'm like, that meant her.
Yeah.
There was only one person there when she finished. The finger representing just Agatha.
Well, I thought she said Coven of Two. Like she heard something Coven 2 instead of Coven True.
Yeah.
But it might have been some other kind of ghostly form that walked the road. It could have been the ghost of her mother that walked down the road with her.
Nicholas
I don't
Scratch,
know if it was RIO, because if it was RIO, it would force us to interpret Aubrey Plaza's like little skipping down the road like, oh wow, as performative. And she was just seemed to be authentically kind of bemused by the surroundings. Like, yes, she was within earshot of the other three who were watching her and observing her. And aloof characters like that can be performative by their nature. I just think in that moment, like for her, it seems like this is her first time down the Witch's Road when it looks like this, at least. But I really do love the theory that death could require physical bodies in order to be its vessel on Earth. One of the things we were talking about before we started taping is just like, what is the distinction between deities and like abstract entities taking a form? So, like, you know, we have characters like Khonshu and Amit who are the gods of something. And Thor, Love, and Thunder, you have characters that were the gods of whatever. Whereas death is not a god of something. Death is the concept itself.
Yeah, it's a force.
It's
right?
Yeah, and it has to take a different form. So maybe on Earth it requires like a different champion. So maybe death could have a different human body that it has, or a different Terran or bipedal body. I think it's okay in the Marvel cosmic hierarchy if we just look at all beings around the universe as being bipedal and humanoid, just because they were all designed by Celestials to look that way. So we're all made in the a divine image of celestials. So that's why we're allowed to just have human actors play these parts.
They talk about that like in Marvel Comics, right? The seeding of life forms by the Celestials. Like, man, we got a lot of bipedal, like humanoid-looking aliens,
With
and
eyes and
you could
mouths.
have like cross breeding between different species of creatures throughout the universe, right?
Yeah.
They're able to crossbreed because we share like the base DNA that was all seeded by the Celestials back in the day. And I like that idea. It's like a fun idea. How do you think the elements of what seems to be like two things, right? There's Rio and Agatha, and they had some sort of falling out that has caused this scar. If that's like, if Rio's death taking Nicholas Scratch or something like that. But there's also the concept of the Darkhold and Agatha trading Nicholas Scratch for the Darkhold and Rio having the Darkhold before and Agatha taking it from her. How do you think all these elements play together in this story?
I'd add one more element. Obviously, something then happened later in their relationship. Like, why is Rio coming to kill Agatha in episode
Right.
1?
But you can't kill her.
But you can't kill.
But
Yeah,
you can't,
yeah.
right?
She just wants to like scare her, get her out, and also tell the Salem 7 where she is. Because
terrorize
I'm wondering
her.
if the Witch's Road with Agatha and Rio and the Nicholas Scratch Darkhold switcheroo are different events, and not all happened at the same time, but happened at different points of time. And it's been centuries of this kind of conflict between them. I don't know, Evan.
Yeah, I just wanted to shout out Nate616. It's Erlin. Thank you for the super chats. Straight Whisper, JCU Eagle, all asking very similar questions. I do think that's some interesting threads to pull.
Because I don't think it was
Back
all
to you.
one day that like, oh well, I'm now death, and I'm also taking your son, and you get the Darkhold, and like, I don't think that all happened
Yeah,
at the same
because
moment.
like we could play out this. So if Rio is death, and like Rio and Agatha had a relationship, then it comes time. Somehow Agatha gets to the end of the Witch's Road. Maybe the one person that was with her was her son, right? And that's when she's confronted with the challenge of like, give up your son for this. Maybe to go back to Indiana Jones, which you referenced in the Last Crusade earlier, right? Like, you come to that final decision at the end of the Witch's Road to get what you want, right? Was the Darkhold for Agatha this like immense amount of power, but there's a cost, and that cost is your son, and like Rio has to do that job. So Agatha leaves with the power that she sought, but very torn up about it. Then she continues to have a relationship with Rio, or that ends the relationship with Rio, or that begins the cat and mouse of like, you're death, but you can't take me, or something like that.
Yeah.
Is there an example in the MCU of a character who was initially revealed to be something who, by the end of the story, has like some kind of double identity or a possession, or they're actually the physical manifestation of this thing? Because that often comes up in our theories, and I'm struggling right now to think of a character. Like, I guess in Hawkeye we learned that Laura Barton was Mockingbird, so I can understand like, oh, you're actually this comic character who has this kind of like code name or something like that. But
I mean, Wanda, that was what they did with Wanda, right? Like,
Right.
it was, we knew legally they couldn't mention that she was the Scarlet Witch.
The power
Well, we knew
of
from the beginning.
copyright law!
SP Bat in the Twitch chat saying Sharon Carter, power broker.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay. So like
yeah,
different like
great,
monikers and
great.
functions in the world. I'm just trying to think like, have there ever been an example of like they're actually a goddess, or they're actually a demon, or they're actually some kind of abstract
We had
concept?
the reverse with
I'm not
Mandarin,
saying it. I'm
right?
curious to know.
Yeah.
I
And
might
then
just
Kobe
be-
Sanctuary on Twitch saying Love from Love and Thunder, a little bit like
Okay,
that.
there's an
yeah.
example, yeah, but
okay.
it's kind of like we don't even know who Mistress Love is, and the movie did not explicitly.
Yes,
They just
yeah.
said she is now the concept of love, and they didn't like say, "Hey, so here's who Mistress Love is in the Marvel hierarchy." It's just like if you didn't know who that is, you can just understand her as like a walking abstract form of the idea of love.
Yeah. I mean, the Eternals all thought that they were something that they weren't, I
Yeah.
guess, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
different
that's true.
functions, different functions. Yeah.
Terrence Howard turned out to be Don Cheadle the whole time. And then that turned out to be a Skrull at some point. We don't know when.
Russian nesting dolls.
We'll never know. We'll
I
never
just
know.
think title to title, we've been down this Witch's Road, I don't know, 12, 13 times since I started working at New Rockstars, covering a show
Yeah.
as like the mystery is unfolding week by week. And I'm trying each time to get better. I'm trying to, like, anytime I reincarnate in a new Disney Plus series, I'm trying to get better at this, and sometimes I have not been better at it, but, like, I'm trying to just remember the lessons that we learned from past times when it comes to, like, our theory crafting. And I say this fully admitting I may be totally wrong that Nicholas Scratch, or some essence of him, is possessing Billy Kaplan. I think Teen is Billy Kaplan at the end of the day, but I'm trying to think, like, wait, am I going down this road before? Have characters ever been possessed by some other entity? Because I don't know if they've ever given an actor that to do. Like, you have to play these two different identities, and you're gonna be like, sometimes you're gonna be like this other times, and you have to, but that has to be a mystery that you unfold through your performance over several episodes.
The character of Ralph Boner was playing Pietro Maximoff.
Right. Yeah.
And he wasn't
Similar
actually
possession.
him. He was like kind of possessed.
Okay.
And he was being puppeted by Agatha in that.
Yeah.
I mean, it does feel like a clear comp is Aubrey Plaza's last character, right, in Marvel.
In
like
Legion?
In Legion.
Yeah,
That's
true.
a good example
good
of
one.
it.
And she was like 9 different characters. She was
Yes.
a dog at some point.
Yeah.
So I get, like, looking at Aubrey Plaza that way. I just think Legion remains the best Marvel series ever that we've seen. What Noah Hawley accomplished with Legion season 1, like, Marvel has gotten close to that quality with Loki, close to it with certain episodes of WandaVision, but has not fully realized, like, how cool Marvel TV can be.
Well, I think Legion also like leaned into the like, yeah, you don't know what's going on, good. Whereas I think something on Disney Plus is like, hey, we gotta at some point give them answers. Like Legion was like, screw your answers. We want you to not understand what's going on.
Sorry. And to add to that, like, Legion was like a very adult focused show.
Yeah.
It was not
Yeah.
trying to hit like
Hocus Pocus
13 to
demographics.
65.
Yeah, exactly.
So this show's heavy. Another interesting kind of mystery is like Rio's appearance in the road, right? When her and Agatha are talking in the booth, she kind of says, Rio says, magic does what it does. Like, it takes the path of least resistance. It carried the closest, more appropriate candidate down or up. So she was kind of saying, like, she didn't work her way in there. It's like whatever incantation they did, it brought the closest green witch who's best for the job, and it just happened to be her. I don't buy all that.
She's just sitting in a Starbucks.
Yeah. I was almost done with Act 1 of my screenplay.
Yeah.
They're like, I got a latte for nipples.
It's new place. It's French.
I love this line so much, and it almost kind of justifies how
She does
many.
come up, right?
She does, yeah. I love the path of least resistance part of it, and I love the down or up part of it, because path of least resistance just makes it feel like it's water always flowing downhill, and the path of least resistance to find its way to the ocean, right? So all water from land makes its way to the ocean eventually. And in the MCU, we've seen lots of characters just kind of randomly be a little witchy in nature. Ned in Spider-Man No Way Home can operate a sling ring. The Dr. Stephen Strange was not born a sorcerer. He could learn the mystic arts.
Pangborn.
Jonathan
He learned.
Pangborn.
my
Mordo,
power.
presumably, maybe even the Ancient One. Not all these characters were born sorcerers, but their hearts were open to it, and magic found their way to them. So I just kind of like that sentiment, that idea. Whereas it seems like Wanda was actually born to be the Scarlet Witch. Now the downer up is just fascinating, because to me, I just read that as Rio's kind of teasing her to say, I could have come here from the surface world, or there might be a place beneath the Witch's Road that I have been nesting this whole time, waiting to be summoned up. So that could be hell. That could be some other cosmic dimension that we don't know. Just a shadow realm, like the Shadow Realm in Thor: Love and Thunder, that like you move through shadow, right? So Rio or Death could just be occupying some other realm beneath the Witch's Road. It makes me just wonder what's beneath the Witch's Road.
Yeah, because it is interesting that they had her pop up out of the ground and not drop Jumanji style.
Yeah.
Right, like onto
They
the
came
ground.
down through a tree, right?
Yes.
Like they
Yeah.
walked down into the Witch's Road.
And each
but
time they
kind of popping
escape from one of the houses on the Witch's Road, it's always in a downward
they kinda
trajectory,
keep
right?
going down,
Even
yeah.
though when you think about it, they're entering the house at ground level, and still they take a water slide down from the first house. In this one, they climb down through a piano, right? So like, are there ever descending levels to the Witch's Road?
Oh, like Dante's Inferno. Each one is
Yeah.
a different level. Yeah, I mean, there was also the line from, I realized it was kind of a throwaway line, but the line from Mrs. Hart about like, oh, I thought that that the only thing under here would be the sewer system that runs underneath the town. But she was like immediately drawing, immediately bringing your attention to the fact that like, we thought something was underneath us and it's not what was underneath us.
Yeah. I, like when she said that line, when she's part of the Westview Historical Society, like my mind blew up with with ideas of this hellmouth beneath Westview. And I believe there was like from production, they have like a business card or a plaque saying the Westview Historical Society. So I think we're going to explore that a bit more. Like what was originally built under Westview, what could be there, the history of the town of Westview, why this spot in New Jersey. Yeah.
Even, and I know some of this was explored in WandaVision, but like the fact that, Westview's in New Jersey, and yet this show has so many connections to Salem and Massachusetts, including in this episode, Jennifer Kale mentions Boston, what was it, Obstetric
the
Society
Obstetric
or whatever,
Association.
right? Like, so clearly these characters in New Jersey and Massachusetts, Gina would know better than I, are not super far apart,
No.
but they're also not next to each other, right? So it's interesting that we have these kind of two parallel locations that keep getting brought up.
4.5 hour drive, probably
Yeah.
6 hours by horseback.
Yeah,
What, are you getting on the
That's
Acela? What is it on the Acela?
Dude, taking that bolt bus back from Boston to New York Chinatown weekly, terrible. Excella, 5
How many
hours.
Taylor ham, egg, and cheese are you taking?
Pack in 5, freezing
Hey.
3.
Get the
you gotta-
tasty
you gotta
cakes,
do
am I
at least-
right?
At least one an hour. Yeah, Taylor ham, egg, and cheese, and tasty cakes.
Hey, bye-bye. Don't pump your own gas, whatever you do. Hey, let's talk about this teen character on the show, huh? How mysterious. I feel like the show really wants us to think that he, in some manifestation, is Agatha's son or has Agatha's son soul, or they want us to think that Agatha thinks that this is her
Yeah,
son.
Right,
I think
right.
that's what it is.
And also, he seems to be suspicious
Yeah, he
of
has his
whatever,
own pointed questions towards
Yeah.
Agatha. Is obsessed with Agatha, seems to know a lot about her.
Ask if she cast the sigil.
Yeah.
Right, and I think too, there was like one trailer or an image that came out as they were promoting the show that looked like maybe the teen was chatting with someone online about Agatha. I think we're gonna get this weird flashback episode.
Also,
that
this
shows him researching her and like finding photos of her.
This is the most superficial thing. They're both brunette. Even that, right? Like they cast a brunette actor to play teen instead of a blonde or a redhead or somebody else or somebody of another ethnicity that's not Caucasian, right? Like, so it's plausible that they could be biologically
And like,
related.
there's still the weird thing that he's somehow a manifestation of the Darkhold or something. Or if that body Agatha found in episode 1 is just the Darkhold, or maybe it's the teen, because him carrying this book all the time and writing things out, and they actually use his spell book. Like,
Yeah.
it's like if he's not Agatha's son, is he the Darkhold? Like the spirit of the Darkhold trying to get reborn or something like that?
Yeah, what Marvel fans want is for him to just be clearly established as Billy Kaplan, Wiccan. And there's a lot of excitement around Joe Locke as an actor. I want him to be the future Wiccan of the MCU. I don't want him to just be mentioned in this show and we never see him again. And I think they specifically want him to be Wanda's son. Like, they want some kind of justification that the soul of Billy Maximoff from these other universes or from within the Hex is freed through what happened in Multiverse of Madness and latches onto the soul of this kid, Billy Kaplan, because it's closest to the very confusing Billy Kaplan backstory in the Children's Crusade, Young Avengers storyline. So I get that want. It's just, to do that would be like, it'd be yet another example of Marvel Studios taking a promising young actor, Julian Hilliard, who's great in WandaVision and great in Multiverse of Madness, and just saying, like, we're just ripping your soul out of your character and putting it in the body of Joe Locke. Thanks for your service. Like, they already did that with Emma Furman in Endgame and put it into Catherine Newton and just recast her. And, like, Emma Furman had an incredible scene in Avengers Endgame, and there's no reason she couldn't have been Stature and Quantumania. And so I don't know if Marvel Studios clearly doesn't have any qualms about doing this, but I think what they're going to say is that this character, this version of Billy Kaplan, has just a streamlined, simplified backstory, and maybe he's not genealogically related to either of them. He was just born to Rebecca Kaplan and Jeff Kaplan, but just his interest in sorcery and the history of witchcraft just makes him, in Agatha's eye, something that reminds her of her son Nicholas Scratch. And just maybe part of his spell, when he like freed her, like required some kind of connection to her to free her. And so maybe he had to, like, I don't know, he had to read the Darkhold. That's where he found some of these Latin spells at some point. And just that link kind of caused Agatha to accidentally put the sigil on him just because he reminds her too much of Nicholas Scratch. But I don't think he's genealogically related to Agatha.
I think there's also like this is a totally out of left field, but like maybe all of this misdirect is super purposeful, and he's none of these characters, and he is actually just like a kid whose parents were murdered in some way by Agatha. And so then after they were murdered, he became like super obsessed with her, found out everything he could, learned what he could, and his whole mission is to kill Agatha. I think that would be like the easiest way, just to be like, hey, all this like confusing comic stuff, we'll deal with it at some point. But for now, it's just a kid whose parents are died as a result of Agatha.
And even if he's not going to kill her, it would be a nice symmetry if Agatha at one point had to sacrifice her son to get the Darkhold. If maybe this series ends with Agatha having to sacrifice herself to empower Teen in some way, or to save him in some way, right? Like a little bit of a nice reversal that kind of completes that arc. Very quick, I know I asked this before we started taping. Does Agatha survive this show?
I think she does.
I think she
don't
does.
think they don't.
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say she dies.
Okay.
No one dies ever.
Yeah.
Except for Agatha in this show.
Has a title character ever died in a Marvel thing? Other than the Avengers, Tony Stark died in Endgame, but when it was just named after this specific character, has that character died at the end of it in the MCU ever?
Yeah, I mean, I think she's not gonna die. I think the only way they have her die is if it's RIO is sort of, death, and they go to the underworld to be together like a Persephone and Hades
in a
type
similar
of thing.
way to Loki doesn't really die at the end of the series. That was also kind of nicely written off. In
Right,
a way,
Yes,
right,
transforms
exactly,
in some
and
way.
almost given like a happy ending to be like, yeah, go to the underworld and bang death all you want.
If the rumors are true that they're considering like a Scarlet Witch solo project, I think Agatha right now is like the best foil for Scarlet Witch.
But haven't we seen that though?
Not really, because we saw
Just one
we saw
episode.
hey, I just learned I was a Scarlet Witch a minute ago, and now we're fighting, and you said this thing about runes, and it was kind of a trickaroo. An actual hey, we're both powered up, we both understand the situation, we're meeting on an equal plane, and we're fighting. I think the biggest question though is does Agatha, if she survives this series, is she a hero or is she a villain? Does she have to make a villainous move at the end of the series? I think they might keep her a villain. And I like this idea that somehow her son is inside Billy Kaplan, and she gets to have her kid back, and Wanda continues to be robbed of her children, right?
Damn.
That is what drives her the most, drives most of her anger, is she's not allowed to have this family in this universe.
Yeah.
And you could still keep the other actor around to play a version of Billy. I think that's fun. And if this is a story that ends with Wanda getting to be with some version or possession of her son, and or Agatha gets that, and Wanda continues to not get it, sets up a fun conflict either in a Scarlet Witch movie or in Secret Wars, where you have multiple universes coming together. It could be fun to explore that.
Yeah, Gina, I appreciate your take, because it is the way a screenwriter thinks. And I think you, of the four of us, are most plugged into the way Jack Schaefer is actually probably writing this story. Because you have to, we think of it as theory crafters or whatever, how it could connect to the comics. But realistically, Jack Schaefer's and her team are the ones who has to figure out how to cinematically depict this. Mm-hmm. So I think something like that is probably what it's going to be. This is what I mean, where I'm trying to get better season over season. And I need to listen to you, Gina, more.
I'm just going for the simplest
Because
answer.
they do want to wrap up this story in a meaningful way. Because I don't think they're certainly not considering Agatha season 2.
No,
especially
but they definitely want to leave the possibility.
They want to leave characters
open,
around, because much like they did with
can
WandaVision,
pop
they
up.
want to leave characters sitting around that they can come back to.
Also, Gina threw in, I don't know if you guys picked up on it, that Agatha would just get to bang death for all eternity. Do we get an actual kiss before the show ends?
Yes. Otherwise, they're gonna get real. They're gonna get blasted for
Queer coding? Or was it
queer
baiting.
If they give me ass crack but no lip smack,
I think this is gonna end with Agatha is sort of this Gollum figure where you're always oh no, seriously, the Darkhold is her precious, and you can have her at the end sort of being oh yeah, we've seen this human side of her, and she's gonna throw that Darkhold into the fire, and then she's gonna be no.
Dive in after it.
Yeah.
I think one way to cinematically depict if Billy Kaplan does have this connection to Nicholas Scratch, we have to see it in his flashback episode where he is talking to a ghost that none of us have seen all this time.
Yeah.
Or maybe before he entered the road, there was some other kid who was his best friend that he grew up with named Nikki. And he grew up with a best friend named Nikki this whole time, who was just he's talking to himself, and then everyone's what's with that Billy kid in high school.
Yeah,
He's always
yeah.
mumbling to himself. And then, so like, that's kind of his story. Is there's just been this other kid who's like, oh yeah, I know my mom says I can stay out as long as I want.
Yeah.
Or, I'm cold.
Who's Nicky? He's the little boy that lives in my mouth.
Yeah.
We need to see another kid play Nicky. And what if it's that kid from that other show that he's on?
Heartstopper?
Yeah, it's the other guy from the Heartstopper plays
yeah,
Nicky
yeah,
Scratch
yeah.
on the
Aw,
show.
that'd be
Yeah.
fun.
Nicky ran into the woods without his glasses and got stung by bees.
Damn.
He can't see without his glasses.
While we're on the topic of teen, we learned a lot more about the Sigil. We covered it in the recap. Jeremiah Torres with the super chat on YouTube asking, who do you guys think put the Sigil on teen? Grape Dog Moody posing a theory that Agatha maybe did it subconsciously while in the Hex. And then
I
Straight
think-
Whisper even asking, what would be the event that makes it so the Sigil is no longer needed?
I think
would
Teen
be-
put it on himself.
Ooh.
I think he put it on himself. He knew he didn't trust
Oh,
himself
interesting.
around. I think he started out with some sort of mission. Clearly he did hunt down Agatha. But I think he put it on himself just in case he was ever questioned by the other witches. And I think eventually, in WandaVision, we saw that it was Agatha sort of pulling the strings all along. And I think in this, we might get that it's Teen pulling the strings
Okay.
all along.
That's cool.
I think Dottie put the sigil on him, and Dottie's really been running this whole game.
No way.
I love it.
She was a powerful witch who watched over this town, who's been there a long time. Wanda came in, caught her slipping. She got hexed. She gets out of the hex. She knows Agatha's been left, mind wiped in her city, and she's like, never again, dude, never again. And Dottie takes control. And Dottie is
love
using
that.
Teen to manipulate Agatha.
I think the answer lies in what the sigil actually is. Like, to us, it looks kind of like an M, kind of looks like a W, kind of looks like both. I wonder if it was like Agatha's signature when she claimed the Darkhold. Like that squiggle, that brushstroke squiggle that it goes from left to right means something. And I think Jack Schaefer said originally they wanted to do a sensor bar or something like that. But they spent a lot of time talking about what that sigil would look like, and the fact that it's sans serif versus serif. Like, it was handwritten. And I was just thinking about how you see A. Harkness on the library card. I wonder if back in the Salem times or whenever she got the Darkhold, she had to Ariel with the contract with Ursula had to sign it. Agatha had to make a deal and sign her name or her symbol into the pages of this Darkhold. So that's why she sees that sigil.
Evan?
I do want to start moving us along here to take some audience questions. The last thing I want to hear from you guys is about the other witches this episode. So this is Alice's kind of trial. She seems like she really goes on a journey of acceptance, with her relationship with her mom. But Jennifer is really interesting, right? We get more backstory about Jennifer and, being bound by someone without magic. Do we think we see the witches have these kind of repeat trials going on as we continue down the road? What do you all think?
Yeah, that's a good point, because they do mention, Jennifer's able to make that potion with the moonlight that heals Teen, and Lily is kind of like, hey, your powers are back.
Getting better. Yeah.
Yeah, and is that a result of her beating her trial? Is that a result of her just being in a coven again? Is that a result of her believing in herself? Was it a mental block that was keeping her from her powers? Yeah.
She's actually the one that we've seen the most of. I know we haven't seen a ton of any of them
Yeah.
so far, but we do, we know how she lost her powers. We know who took her powers. We know that it was someone who took them without magic. Whereas, so far, Lilia, we don't know really anything.
Yeah,
I mean, she saw a figure that was young her, but and we know about Alice's mom, but we don't really know about Alice. So I think we've gotten a lot of Jennifer. So it seems like they have to pay that off, right? They wouldn't have cast a whole other actor for a scene to be you're an inconvenient woman, and then they're like, here's your $150 extra that we gave a line to, now go home. I think we have to see that backstory.
The final trial might be a video game where it's all your bosses from the previous fights come back, and they're all
I mean, it would be great if anyone watched The Good Place, where they have to walk down that hallway, and it's you can go in these rooms, or but if you do, you fail this task, and they all basically face their worst fear / thing that they're most interested in. If it's sometimes they have to change their fate, because Alice sort of did already change her fate. She defeated this demon. Once she gets back to the surface, her luck is gonna change, baby. She's going straight to Vegas. But the others have to defeat their baggage, essentially.
Yeah.
I also like that maybe potentially, even though like these episodes seem to be like, oh, this episode is focused on Jennifer, this episode's focused on Alice, but like all of them are scaling up their power every episode, right? Jennifer, her healing is a little quicker, a little bit more efficient the second episode or in this fourth episode. After at the beginning they kind of questioned it. Oh, you couldn't save Mrs. Davis, right? And like, well, you were the protection witch, you couldn't save her, right? Like, we're calling into question the efficacy of their powers in the previous episode. In this episode, they're getting a little bit better. And I like that maybe like as they all keep powering up until that final episode when they're all already at full strength.
Right.
Yeah, we're gonna see Alice now as like a badass like warrior protector now, and she's just gonna be like doing kickflips everywhere and just like grabbing people, saving them. That's right. She's doing ollies. She's doing what are we talking about here?
Rail slide.
And then so the way that Jen's better at potions, maybe Lilia will get more efficient at like divining the future events. She'll be like Doctor Strange seeing the future.
Her weird little conversation snippets are at least getting longer.
She'll be in control of it.
I
think you guys are all right though. I think we're not done with Jennifer Kale. We have to see, because we got more information, but not the complete story. We know there was like an obstetrics organization in Greater Boston. We don't know what year. We know she was a midwife. We know she was an 11th generation root worker. Does anyone know what that means? I don't.
I assumed root worker was maybe like
taking
herbs.
roots and grinding them up.
Okay.
And like his dress, his kind of costume, his little doctor outfit, very like early 1900s.
Yeah.
The Nick
Time
kind of
period.
thing.
Yeah, very Nick.
Okay, Lisa Teniel, regular YouTube chatter, saying that root workers were practitioners of hoodoo, which is practiced by, I think, originated in West Africa.
Okay,
practicing
cool.
Wait, so hoodoo, not voodoo.
Hoodoo.
Different.
Yeah.
So my thinking is just, what is Jack Schaefer? What story is she telling for this character? And it kind of feels like she was a midwife and she just butted heads with like the doctors who were part of the medical science of the time, which was not safe for patients in many ways, and that she was trying to take a more safer approach, and that's why he considered her inconvenient. What I'm curious about is like, what was this trap? Did they know she was a witch?
Right.
Or did they just think that she was like a woman who was using her holistic weird crystals and crap, and they're like, enough of that, and they trapped her and they're like, holy shit, she's a witch. And there's some other, or was the person who trapped her a sorcerer? Was like were they aided by someone like the Kamartaj sorcerers, whoever the ancient one was at the time, the ancient one herself help them? Did Michael Stuhlbarg's character, was he a doctor at the time?
Was Pangborn there? Has anyone seen Pangborn?
Pangborn? Or did Agatha help them? Did Agatha help these doctors in the Boston area say like, I'll make a deal with you guys. If you want to trap her, I'll help her out. And that's like something that Agatha feels guilty about.
She went out of her way to say like, I left you alone, I'll let you do your thing, but maybe she didn't. Maybe she was behind this doctor taking her powers. Because it does seem like Agatha and Rio's deal was like, we travel around, I take the powers, you get the bodies.
Yeah.
That's been our deal for
a real Bonnie and Bonnie situation.
Which also, like, remember they already seeded that thing of, like, if you use your powers against Agatha, she can take them. So that has to, Chekhov's witch powers, that has to come back.
I'll definitely be coming back at some point, for sure. Okay, Evan, what live questions do you have for us right now?
Or dead questions. Those are great.
This question died 10 years ago.
A lot of questions pertain to stuff we've asked already, so I'm glad I was able to ask them along with the conversation.
Great.
I hope you felt your questions were answered. Some fun comments from the chat before we get into it. Too Much Chubbs GPT saying, Rio is my favorite witch so far. Can't wait to see more. TJ Parker saying, it's been death all along. And Johnny Moves referencing something we said at the beginning, saying, I'm born and raised in Jersey. Action Park was a rite of passage for anyone in Gen X.
Hell yeah.
Have you been there, Gina?
Oh yeah, we used to take school field trips there.
Oh my
Action Park? Oh my God.
Evan, did you go?
No.
Evan was more. Are you more South Jersey?
No, I'm North Jersey. That's why I'm a Taylor Ham guy.
Oh yeah.
Jack Johnston on YouTube. Thank you for the super chat. Do we think Teen will discover or trigger the start of each trial? So far, they played the record and found the letter in the first trial.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, he does seem to be the one that's like, you know.
Alice said, "Don't touch anything."
Yeah, and then he did it. That's why I think he knows a little bit more.
He started playing it. It said "play me," and he started playing it, but he didn't say like, "Hey guys, look at this. Should we play it?"
Right, he was already playing it when he held up "play me."
Yeah.
That's a good observation.
Great
Yeah.
point.
He's like the person in the escape room who is like just touching every switch. I think that makes him the most active character in ways on the show. Episode to episode, he is the one who's moving things along.
He's the one that wanted to take them to the road in the first place.
Right. It's also the curiosity of youth, right? Like, it's like, what's this? What's this? What's this? What's this? And the older witches are like, Everything's gonna kill us.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
like stay inside our little circle.
Yeah, he is the catalyst to kind of break them out of their stasis, right? Like, all these witches have been depowered and stuck, maybe with the exception of Agatha, for some extended period of time. I mean, for Jennifer Kale, almost 100 years she's been kind of bound, right? But maybe it takes like a young guy out there playing records and touching letters, right?
Yeah, can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs. But I think this is why I think this show might be a Billy Kaplan Wiccan origin story. That he's going to be the ultimate hero of this show. That Agatha will be the villain, but she's a villain who's like dealing with her own demons in a battle with death or something like that. But I think if a hero emerges after all the dust settles, it needs to be Wiccan.
I think the very last scene of this series has to be Rio and Agatha in a threesome with Mephisto.
Damn. Yes. I vote yes.
Talk about getting blasted.
Blast me, you bitches. Blast me.
Blast
Yeah,
me.
I fully started the conversation.
That's who's gonna say that? Mephisto.
So it's just Mephisto is just in the challenger situation on the bed.
Oh my god.
He's
Make
just
that meme.
he's wearing a little silk robe.
It's got lotions. Lotions and potions.
So many lotions.
There's a camera point of view shot on the bolt of one of the beams. It's just going back and forth.
Oh,
and they're
yeah.
back and forth on each
He
other.
goes, my wives.
Evan did it.
Hell yeah.
All right, so
Very
another question that we have from the audience, Final Horcrux, asking, what or who do you think is at the end of the road? Is it a person or an entity that grants the witches what they want the most? Yeah,
It's
we're
a
learning
mirror,
a little bit more.
and it makes you
know?
look at yourself.
That's the final boss.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go first.
No, I was going to
please.
say, like, I think that to me, it sort of makes the most sense if it's almost you can get what you want, but you have to give up the thing that you love the most. I realize we've sort of seen that before.
What if it's just Vormir at the end?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's
And
like
Red Skull's like, I do this for everything.
like we've seen that before, but in a lot of like modern witchcraft movies, right? There's like the idea that you have to sacrifice something. Like in The Craft, you see them kill that poor little baby deer to get their
Spoiler.
powers.
You haven't seen The Craft yet.
But like a lot of it is like you have to sacrifice something innocent to get your thing. So like if it is the idea of, you know, like Rio wanted the ultimate power, she ended up sort of getting trapped in this death position, and to her at the time that was like giving up Agatha because now she can never be with her. And if Agatha had to give up her son to get the Darkhold, maybe they all have to make the ultimate decision of like, do you want this ultimate power to you, but then you each have to give up something.
Yeah, I don't think there will be like a physical manifestation of a thing that's been like, you've walked my road, like you know, an Oz at the end of the road. I don't know if there'll be a person.
Yeah.
I do think it'll be a trial that'll involve all of them in some way, or demand some sort of sacrifice.
They just get one of those room escape pictures that's like,
Yeah.
we escaped, and it's all of them like smiling for the camera.
Because it's not like you do walk the road to get the Darkhold. It's like you get the thing you want the most.
Right,
and everyone's got
right.
different wants
So,
that they
so like
have.
it would, to me, it would be like each of them would have, like, you know, Alice probably wants her mom back, you know, like her uncursed mom back.
And she probably has to give up that desire. Maybe that's the sacrifice she
Just
made.
to let go
Yeah.
of her mom
Right.
to
Yeah.
be rid of the curse forever. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the Westview Town Square being sucked into a hellmouth. That's where the final battle is. Like, we just see a vast pit of swirling dark energy.
Ooh,
That's
like
sucking
Pirates of the
everything in.
Caribbean 3?
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Calypso's there, everybody.
Everyone shows up. Dottie's there. She was like, it was me. I put the sigil. It was me. White Vision comes back.
Brandon Diaz asking, I think Agatha is lying about being down the witch's road. She keeps looking confused
Yeah.
and surprised. We've talked about this before with this
too.
episode. What do we think? Any new?
Agreed.
I do
would
think
love
she
that.
didn't walk the road. I think she let that myth go so that people think that's how she got the Darkhold, but it was really because
I
some
would love that, but is
bargain.
it too close to the fact that like we were led to believe that Alice's mom died on the road, and then she was like, by road, I mean.
the road.
On
the road.
The
Yeah.
road.
I still
is that
think
too much
she's
of a-
lying. No, I think
Yeah.
it's just like because I think in a way Lorna Wu did still go down a journey. I think Agatha never really went on that journey of self-discovery. Like I think she's been lying to herself.
Yeah.
Or I wonder if you walk the road and you get the thing you want. Part of the bargain is you don't remember the circumstances that led
You
to
kind of
there.
get
Oh
sigiled.
yeah, so you can't write a book about like the road. Like here's
Right.
exactly what you're gonna face. If
So
you
if Wanda walked the road, or if Agatha walked the road to get the Darkhold, and then is later surprised when her son is taken for the Darkhold. She doesn't remember walking the road, and like is just like, oh, I didn't know that I did this.
Also, like as we've already kind of hinted at, the road's probably a metaphor for like your journey of enlightenment or self-discovery or whatever. Obviously, Agatha's not an enlightened or self-discovered character, right? She's selfish. She's short-sighted, all these kind of like negative attributes. She certainly hasn't learned this lesson that this journey would take her on. So that's, which also plays into her lying about it, right? That's the kind of person that would lie about having completed this mission, right? Yeah.
All right, so as we kind of wind down here, Marvelous Menace saying Rio knows who Teen is. Peter Swen's Run saying, I see one-to-one mapping to the Yellow Brick Road. Yeah, a lot of Wizard of Oz references, it feels like. Thank you all so much for the super chats. But speaking of Rio, SP Bat, GSU Eagle, Beware the Dreads on Twitch, all asking, having the same conversation we were having before the show started. Would Rio know any of these other death entities, afterworld entities? Like, who do you think she is most likely to have interacted with if she is death?
Hela. Like, would she know? Like,
I mean,
Hela?
They have similar.
That's a different universe. That's in space,
they're getting eye makeup tips from each other.
Yeah.
She must have run into Wenwu at some point. He's killed thousands of people.
Wenwu. You're always bringing up Wenwu.
Wenwu's been on Earth for 1,000 years.
Drink if you're playing the Brandon Barrick Breakroom drinking game.
Wenwu and the Eternals have just been hanging out while everything has been going on.
I mean, she's got to have interacted with adult Mudang, right? What's her name? Tawaret?
Yeah.
I think you just look at who are on the statues in that chamber in Thor: Love and Thunder. That's where you have like the cosmic entities manifested. So you had Kronos, you had Eon representing time. You had Eternity inside the water room. You had Infinity who was there. You had the Watcher who was there. So I think these kind of higher level abstract beings she might be aware of. I don't think she thinks about them that much. Like I don't think she cares that much.
Like if she's making an Evite, she's not like, I need to invite these 10 entities.
Like I don't know if they invite her. I think they're kind of like, death has to.
Totally true.
I like this theory from Watch and Rant saying, in reference to the Lilia Calderu outburst, I feel like Lilia is seeing two possible outcomes, one positive and one negative, each representing a different path that they could take. Interesting. Yeah, some of these that maybe won't come to, fruition. It'll be interesting to see how that kind of takes form later on. And then final question. This kind of is stepping on Zach a little bit here.
Good.
But Moriarty Vignon saying, will Agatha be in Midnight Suns? If we get a Midnight Suns project and she lives this series, will she be in it?
That's a good question.
Well, I'm calling it now. She dies at the end of this show. So, no. Now Rio might.
I think Rio.
Yeah.
Maybe not as a main player, right? But like a consulting thing.
We need a good scene between like Agatha and Wong, right? Or Agatha just showing up at Camertage and being like, "What the hell is this?"
I also think if we're ever going to see Ghost Rider, he probably has had to have encountered Rio before.
I just I do want Agatha to stay more of an antagonist than be redeemed by this show.
Me too.
I don't want her to get too Loki'd by this whole thing.
Yeah, they can't turn every villain.
Yeah.
They can't.
You gotta keep some I was saying like before the show, like I enjoy that right now there's Penguin and Agatha going on. Both like shows starring what is a villain, what we know is a villain, and still saying pretty villainous.
Letting them be pretty villainous.
And I'm wondering if it'll stay that way for Agatha.
I also maintain that Marvel has learned its lesson from Secret Invasion, and they're not going to do anything too earth-shattering on their TV shows. That's just my take. Not to say that they won't have them come into the movies, but I think like after Secret Invasion, they were like, crap, we've got an all-powerful thing everyone hates. Like, what does this mean for the larger universe?
Right.
So I think that whatever happens at the end of this will not be MCU movie earth-shattering. I think, like, if you didn't see the show, you're not going to go into the next few movies being like, oh, what's this? Who's this character? Agatha. Who's that? What's she doing showing up here? Who's Rio?
Yeah. I think that there's a reason this show is like a spin-off of a spin-off, right? Like, they were like, oh, this is a little niche story that doesn't need to tie into the broader MCU. We haven't seen any other cameos from other Marvel characters in the show, nor will we probably, right? Like, it's allowed to just be its own little 9-episode side story that doesn't have to impact anything beyond these nice 9 episodes, and maybe a Vision series, right?
Yeah.
Maybe. Well, as we wrap up here, as we do on the after show each and every week, we got to name a character who we think won the episode. And that's when we decide who This episode was the head witch in charge, the HWIC. Who won this
I
episode?
mean, I've got a couple candidates, whether it's Lilia's torso, whether it's Rio in general, whether it's, I mean, obviously it was an Alice-focused episode. She kind of had the best arc.
She had the big closing note in the song, I think.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of auto-tune happening, but that's also in Joker Folie à Deux.
They're
auto-tuning constantly.
You are now Patty LuPone's enemy for life.
Patty does it.
Patty was not auto-tuned.
She's gonna talk about you on Hot Ones.
Heck no.
Oh, please do. I think Lorna Wu is the head witch in charge.
Oh.
That idea to protect your kid by creating a piece of art that will outlive you is one of the most beautiful things Marvel has ever constructed. I just thought that was so cool. The idea that like she is selling out her catalog, just hoping that it will live on in people's iTunes playlists, so that her not just her daughter, but all of her granddaughter, her great granddaughter, if her line lives on, will be protected by this music.
Even it goes even farther, right? Like the tattoo she got her daughter to protect her, but all these things are kind of like knowing she would not be there. To protect her, right? So I need these other outside forces to protect my daughter and my line, which is like both tragic and like what a great expression of love.
Didn't it remind you of like in WandaVision episode 3 how Wanda is singing that song?
Yeah.
Precisely. The Sokovian lullaby.
That was.
It felt like it was a similar thing, and we were able to translate it because I believe in a certain Portuguese dialect on Disney Plus, they actually translated it. They put it in those subtitles, and it was. We made a whole video about it, but it's like some beautiful lullaby.
Also, again, like something that we saw Magneto do to his other daughter in whichever movie it was where he goes berserk and kills everyone. Young Magneto.
Yes.
Oh, Apocalypse? Was that?
It was probably Apocalypse. Yeah.
Or in The Prince of Egypt, the hush now, my baby. Please still.
I like that thing you do when they sing that song all the time. Are we talking about that? Are we talking about favorite songs?
That thing you do was the same function for all of us.
Yeah.
Every millennial who just needed a rallying cry in our hearts.
Evan's never seen that thing you do.
I have seen that one you do. I
goodness.
freaking love that.
Hell yeah! Evan's an OG Oneater.
Evan has a good take on something.
So yeah, Tom Hanks won the episode for me. No, my HWIC is Rio Vidal. Great episode.
Yeah.
Very fun energy. Brought to it.
Yeah.
Shook things up. A lot of fun. Enjoyed that.
But I mean, also having a blast on that drum kit.
Yeah.
Going hard.
I'm gonna end where we began. I'm gonna give the award to everyone's cleavage and side boob. Listen, it's
inside boob, really,
and side boob.
Oh, there was some outside.
They are all crushing it with this in this
Great
episode.
costuming.
The costuming is fantastic, and it takes a lot. I mean, that was a deep V.
Here's something I
Agatha.
appreciate, and again,
Agatha had a deep V.
Not to objectify any more than we've already done all of these actors.
I'm allowed.
You know, something I appreciated on absolutely, yeah. I'm saying I'm not going to. I appreciated Joe Locke. Looked great as well. Like I love the style. And here's my problem. A lot of time when they set modern stuff in the 70s and they give male characters, like if you look at like actual films or photos from the 70s, like people wore pants that were so tight you could see their blood type.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like insanely, and like always when you see them now, it's like it's always a looser pant. Joe Locke was rocking some tight pants in this episode. Authentically tight is what I'm saying. Okay.
Also,
watch,
that shaggy jacket too. Only a real dude could pull that off.
This very Jimi Hendrix experience with the big
yeah. Also, like Mick Jagger has rocked one before.
Patty LuPone looking exactly like Liza Minnelli was
wild.
Was on purpose, and it's so even the eye makeup.
I wonder if they had someone else in mind for her, and she was like, "No, I'm doing Liza."
Also, I want to do Liz.
Also, weirdly, does anybody else did it make Patty LuPone look 20 years older than all the other episodes, where she has gray hair in the other episodes. But somehow she looked. Maybe it's just because it was like wax figure of Liza Minnelli.
I think it was the heavy makeup.
Yeah, it was the heavy makeup. Also, I also love the like deeper level of it is a parody of the Wizard of Oz.
Right.
Obviously, Liza Minnelli's mom, Wizard of Oz. Many layers to this. Many layers.
Many layers. Well, that's it for us today, witches. Make sure to subscribe to the Breakroom channel right here on YouTube and give us a follow on Twitch, where we do videos just like this one live. Make sure you follow us at Breakroom NR on Instagram, Twitter, Threads, X, Twitch, and anywhere else you go for.
We've got a new TikTok.
And
follow us at our new TikTok.
What's the new one?
Fun quick story. It's New Rockstars official. It's probably linked in all the New Rockstars.
New Rockstar. Is there any underscores or just all one word?
I think it's an underscore. New Rockstars underscore official.
Right.
Quick story. Our original TikTok was established somehow as being in Canada. I mean, as we all know, the Breakroom, we're all in Ottawa right now. And then we got we posted 1 million videos and got a lot of views, and we realized we can't have a Canadian account, so we are having to shut that one down. We started a new all-American TikTok.
Oh, Canada. How could you?
New Rockstars underscore official. I am now following it.
Hey, there we go.
I am unfollowing the old one.
Follow while you can before TikTok gets banned in the U.S. We'll catch you next time. Latest, Gators.
That's right. And if you ever have to use the bathroom, but you don't make it to a public toilet, and if you do have an accident in your pants, all you need to do is remember Weird Al's favorite cover. Brown, brown, brown my load. Brown my britches load.
Oh my God.